Step 5 is all about monitoring and making sure that we have a good plan to make sure we are hitting the milestones on our path to stability and on our path to baseline production. We have a plan laid out for the producer. Obviously, PRRS management is not going to happen overnight. We don't implement this whole plan today and then everything changes tomorrow. It's a long-term plan, and you can't manage what you don't measure. So Daniel, if you would, talk to us a little bit about the appropriate way to monitor the progression of the clinical signs, the diagnostic results, and ultimately the pigs.
Yeah, and as Gloria said before, this is one of the most important parts because you gotta measure, you gotta be able to understand how you're progressing through this journey from acutely infected to stability, or if you wanted to, all the way back to quality. You may think about, hey, there's a lot of sample types here, right, to take advantage of, processing fluids, serum, tongue, and we can list on and on and on. But then the good news is that it's really simple. Just keep monitoring, choose your sample type. Here's one guideline for you to consider. There's certainly many different ways to achieve this. This decision tree here is printed in the back side of your 5-step folder. And it all starts with weekly PCR testing, as we said before. And in a little bit, you understand why weekly PCR. And then you keep sending those aggregated samples, tongue or testicle fluid, all pulled to your veterinary diagnostic lab of choice for PCR testing. If the results are making sense, you continue to do that until you reach this side of the curve here, where you start seeing negative PCRs. Once you are negative, keep monitoring until you have how many weeks again until you declare the farm is stable? How many weeks do you need? Did Carmen say 12?
I said 12.
I think you said 12, and you're right. So 12 weeks, 12 weeks in a row of negative results, so you call your herd as stable. And then you continue to monitor for negativity, or you continue to monitor to ensure that the farm is still stable and didn't go through another outbreak. But sometimes the story is not as straightforward. Sometimes you are having positive results, and then, as I said, if the positive results, but it is what you expected, you continue to monitor until they're negative. However, if it's 30 weeks or 40 weeks and you're still having positive results, or if the CTs are in the 30s and then they go down, meaning more positive results, then you start wondering, is the infection coming from the south? Or in other words, is vertical transmission still going on? Or are the pigs being born negative, but then with everything we do in the farrowing house, moving pigs, moving people, moving supplies, are we offering an opportunity for the virus to jump to those processing fluids or tongue fluids? And then to answer that question, is it vertical or horizontal, we like the tongue tip fluids, specifically from the stillborn piglets. Why is that? If the results from the stillborn piglets are already positive, what does that mean? Came from the south, right? Because stillborn piglets don't interact much with the living counterparts, do they? So if the tongues are positive, you know that there is still active transmission going on in the sow population. So now you know you either need to wait or do another herd immunization to build that herd immunity and start giving birth to negative piglets. Then you keep rolling this until you are winning consistently negative pigs, and that's when you call stable. Did I forget anything, Marius?
No, all good.
All good?
Yeah, there was an A.
That was an A?
Yes, there was an A.
I don't get A frequently, so that's
I don't
good.
believe you.
Gotta also remind and encourage people to monitor not only diagnostic result, but also the clinical signs and productivity numbers. Most people have those numbers available daily, if not at least weekly. So we do encourage people to monitor a recovery of those metrics. Some key metrics are one of the first things that happen in an outbreak is the number of aborts go up, right? The number of aborts go up, the sows get off feed, they don't eat much in the gestation, but also those are the very first things to recover. So based on numbers from the US, now based on what we see there, if the herds, if it's 5-6 weeks post-outbreak and the number of aborts have not recovered yet, then you shouldn't be happy with that. Maybe it's a co-infection situation with parvo, PCV2, we talked about that. Maybe some other stuff, maybe lepto. And so you really want to dig into the differential diagnosis there. What we expect in terms of abort is about 1 or no more than 2 per 1,000 sows per week. If the number of aborts didn't recover, the next things are not going to happen if it's because if the cause is PRRS. The next thing to recover will be mummies and stillborns. Those are going to start recovering. Most herds do that. There is variation, but 12 to 16 weeks is another milestone. If again it's that, if you're past that milestone and if your total born minus born alive, so the difference is going to be the stillborns and mummies. If that's still higher than what you expect for that herd, again, further investigate. Maybe it's a reason, maybe it's a situation why when you need the next generation sequencing to understand if the virus changed, if it's a different one, or if it's something else going on. And then pre-weaning mortality, number of piglets weaned, that's all gonna recover, but again, in that order. The things don't jump. You'll never reach stability if you still have that clinical situation going on, because PRRS is causing those production problems. So you want to make sure that they're recovering in that order. And most herds by 40, 42 weeks, they do reach stability. Again, if you are way past that, you got to understand why and keep asking the questions of what's going on, why is the herd not becoming subclinical, right? And the last thing we wanted to highlight in this slide was that that low prevalence. You see that by week 20 or so, your productivity numbers look fine. And same thing if you walk the farrowing house, you look at the piglets, you don't see any sign of PRRS. It's going to be 100% subclinical. So how do you know if the wild type is still circulating? Gotta be diagnostic, testing diagnostically, because the sow farm may be subclinical. It will be subclinical every time before it start producing negative pigs again. So when the bomb is gonna explode, when that immunity wanes, that's gonna happen at the end of site 2, beginning of site 3. So you'll see the clinical consequences and the production and economic consequences in the downstream flow. What else from here, guys? So far, so good?
Yes, covered it all.
Q&A? Gloria said in the previous Q&A session, monitor frequently. And this is why I think she said that, right? The CT values, it's never going to be a beautiful line here from say, 15 to 16 to 17. It's not going to be a straight line. But you should be able to see that trend toward increasing CT values and toward negativity over time. And again, if you don't see that, first you got to measure, right? You don't manage what you can't measure. And then if this is what you see, life is good, no need to hit the panic button just yet. But again, if that doesn't happen, now you know you got to work on your differential diagnosis. You got to visit the farm. You got to understand biomanagement, see what's happening that PRRS is getting off control. And Clayton, we're talking about what we're talking about here is monitoring for recovery in a specific farm, right? What if I have multiple farms? How do I compare protocol A versus protocol B, herd closure versus whatever? can you walk us through some metrics of success at the whole system level?
Yep, you bet, Daniel. And you're right, we do need some consistent metrics to compare the different farms and how they are progressing through the outbreak. There are 3 metrics that we typically use in projects like POMP or even just within our system to understand, are we getting better with our PRRS management during the outbreak, or are we getting worse? Are the practices we put in place, are they impacting us in a positive or negative way? The first is the time to stability. Time to stability is just the number of weeks from the outbreak until we achieve that consistent negative PCR sampling, okay? Number of weeks from the outbreak till we have consistently negative PCR samples. Time to baseline is the second metric. Time to baseline is not a diagnostic metric, it is a pig weaned metric. It's a throughput metric. All farms have a baseline number of weaned pigs they produce each week. Before the PRRS outbreak, when things were good, how many weaned pigs every week did you expect from the farm? Time to baseline is the number of weeks from the outbreak till we return to the normal weekly weaned pig output. It doesn't mean that those pigs are PRRS negative. It just means the farm is back to the throughput and weaned pig volume that we expect. And then obviously there is a gap, right? The burglar is taking something from us when PRRS has an outbreak on the site 1. That gap, the number of pigs that we lost, we calculate that as the total losses. So in the period while we are going to the baseline production, how many total pigs were missing, okay? If we normally wean 1,000 pigs a week, and it takes us 15 weeks to get back to that 1,000 pigs per week, every week, how many pigs less than 1,000 did we have? We total that up, and then to compare herd to herd, because some farms maybe have 1,000 sows, some farms have 400 sows, some have 3,000 sows. We divide that total number of weaned pigs by 1,000 sows, so it is easy to compare one herd to another. So 3 metrics. Time to stability is the diagnostics. Time to baseline is how long to get to the weaned pig volume. And total losses is what's the area under the curve during that time to baseline. I thought we pulled these out. I apologize. I'm going to skip through here in the interest of time. So Daniel showed you this slide before, but to reemphasize, with time to stability, we would really like to be getting there by the time we get out here in the 26 to 30 week period. We may start to measure at week 12 to 16, but we don't expect to have negative results consistently at that point. 26 to 30 is reasonable to start to get negatives. 30 to 36, we should be mostly negative. And then once we get out past 40 weeks, we really expect to be consistently negative at that time. Our time to our time to baseline production should be faster. Like Daniel said, we got to get through the abortions, we got to get through the stillborns and the mummies, but we should get back to the normal number of weaned pigs somewhere in the 16 to 20 week range. Those are reasonable expectations to tell to the producer, and if we aren't achieving those targets, it tells us we need to investigate on the farm. Do we have another challenge with disease? Are we not implementing our biomanagement practices consistently? Something bad is happening, and we need to understand why. Daniel, I'll turn it back to you to talk us through maybe why we have setbacks if we don't achieve those targets.
Yeah, there may be several reasons why we have setbacks, right? We talked about the importance of making it hard for the virus to jump from crate to crate and then from rooms and weeks and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, if we don't cut that infection cycle and transmission cycle, PRRS is going to continue to steal our pigs. And so in the US, we have a program where we track the herds that go through an outbreak following those metrics that Clayton taught us here. And we also asked with a small survey, what did you do, what happens between now and then? And those are the common setbacks associated with that delayed recovery or higher production impact. And quickly, Here is infection with, of course, highly virulent strains. Not all are the same. Here you know the bad one as Rosalia, and as Jordi said before, there's going to be multiple Rosalias, maybe Rosalia 1, 2, 3. The viruses continue to evolve. In the US, we don't have Rosalias, but we have our Bruno Mars, or you pick the name. For us, the bad ones that are called, there's this lineage system, and for us, it's lineage 1C. Could be 0.2 or 0.5, 0.3 are the most virulent ones. And we know if the farm is infected with those, the outcome is not good. You may not win a single piglet for 6, 7 weeks, and when you start to win again, they're not going to look good for another several ones. So vets take and producers take that information, and they're more likely to, like you heard from Dr. Spronk, people are talking more and more about, talking more and more about, but considering depopulation as one strategy. The farm got infected. You know what? If it's one of these viruses, I have information, epidemiological information about them. I don't want to deal with all of that because of the pig, because of economics, because of the people that have to deal with that. We're just going to depop and repop. So infection with high virulent strains is a risk factor. Lack of or low herd immunity at the time of the outbreak. That's why in those high density zones where you're not really confident on the complete biosecurity package, if you're not able to implement your next generation package that we heard from Dr. Spronk before here, is you have to maintain the herd immunity. Your biosecurity is now ongoing vaccination to keep the herd more resilient to the wild type strains. If one of those bad guys, call it Bruno Mars or Rosalia or whatever, they infect a naive farm, the outcome is not going to be good. Not doing herd closure, there are some herds that do, some herds that don't. The herds that implement herd closure and load, close, and expose, meaning, right, they bring as many gilts as they can, immunize everybody, and then wait until there's no shedding in the sow or the gilt population anymore so you can mix those. Herds that don't do that, the time to stability is going to be longer and the production impact is going to be higher. Biosecurity failures, of course, if you keep your doors open, the burglars are going to continue to come in and they're going to continue to steal your Peters. So biosecurity is something that you don't do it and then you talk about it next year. It's an everyday deal, and you know that, and we heard from both Drs. Wetzel and Spronk about that. And the internal biosecurity, also known as the biomanagement rules, again, you could list your McRebel practices. There will be several ones. It's whatever you think that for that herd makes sense to make it hard for the virus to jump from crate to crate, pig room to room, and so on and so forth. Remember that at the low prevalence scenario, when the breeding herd is recovered, productivity-wise, it's going to be subclinical. So it's going to be leaking the virus. Don't trust your eyes. Got to be using diagnostics to ensure that the wild type virus is gone. Otherwise, you may not see activity in the site 1, but you for sure see it at the end of the nursery when that immunity wanes, or most certainly in the finishing stage. So many ways to monitor the herd, using many different types of fluids, and all of the common thing here between them is they're all population-based, so one sample representing dozens, if not hundreds, of piglets. And we talked about monitoring also using productivity data, right, on both ends here of the situation for early detection of virus when it gets in a herd, using some sort of automated monitoring of your productivity data. Think about the number of aborts, think about mortalities, think about other losses, and also to monitor recovery post-outbreak. So yeah, with that, with this, we presented this recipe for success. One of the questions before was, do I always use this recipe regardless? And the answer is yes. This 5-step process is a process about thinking and going through the outbreak. Now, the answers may change if you're dealing with a mildly virulent or a super virulent one, if you are site 1 only, if you are site 2, site 3 with the system. What we hope that we conveyed here, the message was there's this 5-step process is a recipe not to give you the answers, but to help you ask the questions, and you come up with a solution that makes more sense for that herd, for that producer. So with that, Gloria started the day presenting the case, and we would like to welcome her back here, where my specialty here today is to put people on the spot. So, so Gloria, with that, can you help us conclude here what we have discussed during the day?
Yeah, well, thank you, Daniel. But basically, just to sum up, what we've been discussing during the day is the first step is that all of us know that PRRS is a tough disease and it's a tough virus that is struggling us. But together we are tough and smarter. So today they have given us a lot of tricks to fight this disease. And then
And we heard a lot about biosecurity too, as well. Not only on the stage, also in the breakouts, really valuable information. How biosecurity is important to remain successful. How we can hand over our business that you put a lot of blood and sweat into to the next generation. Biosecurity is a key element for that as well. And we have shown you today a tool that will help you to emphasize the importance of biosecurity, that help you to be more effective in identifying biosecurity leaks, and make use of it. So let us know how you like it, apply it in your systems, and let us know if and what to improve.
And as Clayton said, you can't manage what you don't measure. So that's important. We talked about the importance of monitoring the herd for recovery, both in terms of wild type shedding and activity, and in terms of productivity. You want to make sure those things are progressing, are recovering, and don't settle for less, right? Don't think, no, this herd is delayed and PRRS is diverse, and so don't settle for less. Monitor for recovery and do not accept delayed recovery. Implement appropriate corrective actions, right, Clayton?
Yeah, and I think vaccination is a tool that we have to consider when we have these challenges, either a PRRS outbreak or the ongoing maintenance of antibodies in our sow farms. Lance talked about the value proposition of vaccination in the batches of growing pigs. We talked about vaccination in the face of the outbreak to homogenize the herd, vaccination of our incoming gilts to maintain immunity. At the end of the day, the MLV vaccines are the best tool we have to give us a consistent result in developing immunity without some of the negative consequences of the other tools that are out there.
And just to sum up, thank you, Clayton, thank you, Daniel, for giving us today with the 5-step process, because as here it says, your guide to transform the big PRRS virus lion into a kitty cat.
Do it.